Sorry. Great way to start back up. Fucking. Just a picture of a dog on screen.
And the dog is just like in your face.
Yeah. Hi everybody, I'm waving but you can't see. Welcome back. It's been... Let me find an exact date here.
Couple of years. 2-3 years.
I don't know about 2 or 3 years. I think that's a bit extreme.
I don't think I started ReZero last year.
I don't think it was last year, but I don't think 3 years is correct either.
That's why I said 2 first.
The last time that we did a Brosticast in general...
Oh no, because it was Film Red.
Was 2 years ago.
Yep, Film Red, which was...
2 years ago in November.
Yeah, basically. What the heck?
Alright. Yeah, wow, okay, it has... Wow. Fuck. We're back as promised. See? It took a while, but we're back.
We didn't mean to do that.
We didn't mean to. It just...
happened.
Yeah. We really didn't record one wow. We didn't record one this year, fuck.
Wow.
I mean, we are now, but like...
Technically.
We are now, but like, I'm mainly focusing on like, okay, well, like, it's November now. It's been like 11 months, and there's been nothing in that regard. Fuck. Man, holy shit, I'm just like thinking... I'm really just thinking about that now, like, it's setting in. I mean, okay. To be fair, with last year, we had the computer problem. I remember that for a fact.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I haven't done my best of, well, not best of, but, like, going through my, like, the videos of the year and all that sort of stuff, just, like, reviewing them and talking about them and making, like, how I made them. I remember I haven't made that yet. And something that I want to get to when I do make that video is talking about last year and the fact that when I did 2 big videos that I'm very proud of, both of them were slightly fucked over because I had to do them on the laptop. And they were slightly worse in quality because I had a worse editing software to use. Because fun fact, what is it, Sony Vegas? That we originally had?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sony Vegas, not a great editing program at all. That is not what I used for those videos. I actually, unfortunately had to resort to CapCut because I didn't know what the fuck else to use. And I didn't want to, like, pay for something that I wasn't gonna be, you know, sure of and all that sort of shit. And plus it's, like, actually hard to find something that might be, you know, a one-time sort of thing. But when I made those videos, I had to use CapCut because Sony Vegas is a bitch, and anytime that you hit play with that program and you let it play too long on a just like computer, sometimes it just crashes, and I fucking absolutely hate it. It got me so frustrated. I think I made some videos with it, like the Kirby video that was on the channel, the Kirby True Arena video. That video I think I made with Sony Vegas, but that was a horrid experience because I was editing like 1 or 2 streams with that, so that was awful. But yeah, that's why I know we didn't make one last year for a good bit of that year, because we didn't get this computer we're currently using until like fucking what, December? Maybe not December. December sounds late, but like it was late, I think, right? That we got this. I don't remember when. I really don't remember when. All that
it was
shit...
pretty late because it hit a point where that old computer wasn't working.
Yeah. Well, that was the issue, is the computer was barely starting up, so we didn't even really have it. And then it just wasn't starting up at all. So it was just like, okay. Actually, I think by the point that I made those videos, it wasn't starting up at all, but still. Let me double check. I don't mean to waste time with this, but I do want to see, because I can easily sign into my phone.
I'm on a time limit.
Yeah, that's a category. Okay, so when I did. Some of this info seems incorrect because I'm seeing videos from like a year ago, and it's like, wait, that was a year ago? I thought that was 2 years ago. My update, I think, was still, yeah. Okay. Okay, it has to be around sometime in December because I did my update video. Yes, yeah. It was in December because I did my update video, which was recorded on the camera. Wasn't super great or anything, but I did edit it with this. And then I also did my end of the year stream, where I did also do it here. So it had to be December, at most late November. So fuck, we've essentially almost had this for a year. Anyways, we meant to. I'm rambling here with this shit. We meant to, but we're back now for real this time. Can't say how consistent it will be. We're also not gonna catch up with because usually we try to do the thing of like, here's what we did recently, here's what we played, we watched. We're not fucking doing that this time because we're gonna be here for like hours.
It's been so long that it's like, yeah, no.
It's gonna be like, okay, like we're both gonna have to pull up a list. I'm gonna have to pull up a massive fucking list of shows and stuff like that.
We could talk about small, like the most impactful or important things. Like for me, I would bring up Bleach.
Yeah, like I
for example, and I might bring up like Chainsaw Man and like a couple other things.
I will say
it's like we could leave it minimal if you want.
I will say I was thinking of an idea, and I think this would be a very fun episode for the podcast. But I was thinking of an idea where, for every series, we spend like 3 or 5, probably 5 minutes. I put a timer. 5 minutes for each series, just speed run, talk about what we think, all that sort of shit, give our thoughts, immediately reset timer, go again, all this sort of, and just constant 5-minute timers of each, just speed running through it.
I think it also depends how much would you want to talk about, because I'm like, I only have like a couple, like there's not much, and the ones that are similar, I would talk about them in the same kind of grouping.
Fair. I'm just thinking, 2 years. We've probably played a decent bit. We probably watched a decent bit. All that sort of shit. Not to mention that the last 4 podcasts we've done. Think about it this way.
What have I played that was new? Other than like Echoes of Wisdom recently.
You didn't. The last time we did one of these, you did not have Persona 4 or 3.
Technically, Tears of the Kingdom came out last year, so that also counts.
That also gets included.
Yeah. And then anime-wise, I already kind of mentioned it. I'd be talking about Bleach.
I mean, I just talk about literally like anything that I've seen, regardless of quality. I like doing that.
I would just probably not go into everything just because of how much time we have.
Fair enough.
If we were to do it now.
Yeah, but like I think for a 5-minute timer thing, that could be a fun little, just like haha, like speed running through it and see how much we could say. And I mean, obviously, if people want to hear us talk about that sort of stuff, more like specific things more, we can obviously do that with later stuff. Anyways,
I'd love to do a sit down on Bleach. Actually, this is something we
definitely.
Especially
okay. Yeah, I was also going to mention the last 4 podcasts we've done have also not been related to anything else, because the last one we did was Film Red.
And then it was ReZero.
Yeah, ReZero. It was literally 3 parts of ReZero. So I don't think we've done anything like the last time.
Like we were talking about doing this, but I'm kind of like, I mean, maybe we do something. I don't know.
The last time that we did a Brosticast episode that was not that stuff. Technically, this is also ReZero. When we also did it with yeah, so that was also so technically that was 4 ReZero videos, 1 Film Red, and the last time we had a proper episode where we talked about shit was the villain one, where we talked about what makes or breaks a villain. I talked about Capella in that video. Wow, that was a long ass while ago, back when I had like. Maybe not had just read it, but I read it the like year prior. Was it the year prior? It was the year prior because it was I think so. But like I had read Arc 5 and all that, and you weren't that. You hadn't even seen it yet at that time. You had just like heard me talk about it, but that's about it. And now we're here where you do have all that knowledge in mind, and then also you know who this character is. I mean, you don't know everything, but you know some bits.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that I've spent the last, you know, I'm thankful it's 10. I thought it was 20 minutes. I'm gonna be real. I thought I did not shut the fuck up for like 20 minutes, and I was terrified. Okay. Like that is actual.
I'd be like, let's just shift the topic.
There is actual just relief knowing that it's 10. Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. Now with that out of the way, let's get back to this. Because we've returned, and this time we've returned with an episode that I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy. I will say, small little ramble just here. We weren't sure if we were going to make this its own separate video or Brosticast. For the sake of setting things up quickly, it was just kind of easier to do this. And I'm going to be real, I don't know what I would do for an image. I guess I could make art, but that's going to take a while. By that point, we might as well talk about all of Arc 5. So I was just like, yeah, you know what, we'll just do Brosticast. It works. It's not like it's different than what we did before when we talked about the series, because it's literally what we did before. It's whatever. So we were gonna do this because I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, you know, a lot of you on the channel seem to really enjoy those episodes. Like, those are by far the most popular episodes. I am not surprised, but it is a thing of like, yeah,
especially with your content.
Yeah, like especially with my content, because I'm not focused on this series, but I do try to talk about it a lot because it's the only series that I have in my, like, you know, top, I guess 5 or so that is ongoing, you know, popular, all this sort of shit, and then also
and that's like in your top 3 as well.
Well, yeah, like I was saying, like top 5, top 3, that sort of thing. Ongoing, all this sort of shit, you know, because it's like if we're talking about like Fist of the North Star, that's finished.
Yeah,
it'll get its remake at some point, right? We know that's on the way. But like that's finished as a series. Its prequel stuff is technically finished. There's a sequel to the prequel stuff that's still a prequel, but it's in a limbo where we don't know what's going on with it. And then Bleach, I mean, I'm doing reactions to the episodes, but other than that, the series is finished. There's not much to talk about, and I don't really have any like theory sort of videos I want to do, especially because I don't know, I'm never huge on a lot of the big free sort of theory videos. A lot of the time, I like think about that idea. I'm like, nah, I'm sort of bored with that because there's just so many out there that you can find that it's like, you know, I'm gonna get lost in the maze and like nobody's gonna find me. But yeah, it's like it's the only series that you know, obviously in my top 3 that would, you know, making videos kind of makes sense because it's ongoing, all this sort of shit. So not surprisingly, yeah, these episodes are the most enjoyed and everything. And as a result, I was like, you know what? You're now reading through Arc 5, which was some, I mean, essentially wacky timing because it was like, oh yeah, here comes the season. And I mean, technically speaking, your experience with this has been on and off because you've been reading it, and then also occasionally, if you didn't get far enough, you would just watch it and everything, which is fine.
Yeah, I've gotten to read most things in an episode, but
yeah,
for the most part, I've read it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can finish like the 3rd volume before the next episode comes out, you'll have a bigger ratio on the side of reading it than the other.
And then after that, I'm good for a while.
Yeah, after that, you know, after that, we'll probably be here in January or some shit for like Arc 6. Maybe not, honestly, that might be too far.
Yeah, that's probably too far. I don't think I'm getting there.
We'll be here for Arc 7 then, with our singular physical volume and everything else online. Um, but I was kind of sitting here and I was like, people like us talking about this and everything. I like to talk about it every now and then when I can, and talk about my experiences with this stuff. And it's just like, you know what? What if we just take these volumes and we just do the same shit we did before with the Brosticast, and we just fucking talk about them. Like, every volume that you go through, we just sit down and we talk, and you share your opinions and all that sort of stuff, and I share mine. All that sort of shit. Very simple in concept, doesn't take too much, honestly, makes episodes decently short, even though, like, that doesn't necessarily need to be the thing. It's just like a thing of, like, well, makes it short just because we can just talk about it, that's it, right?
Works better for today too, to be honest, with timing right now.
Yeah. So,
because I feel like we will get lost in the maze if we switch it up.
No,
I'm
yeah.
like, I know it sounds appealing to talk about all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For me right now, I'm like, oh, all those animes, all those games, but I'm like, oh, we're gonna get lost.
Like I said, that's why my 5-minute plan is genius. But yeah, so, and also, like, I mean, part of that is like, I don't know. I do have a big possibly end of the year, because I'm going to try and aim for that video where I'm going to talk about everything that I experienced in the year. But that said, if we're doing it on the Brosticast and also doing it a short way, I am still going to try to differentiate what I'm saying here as opposed to there, so that it's not a repeat.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, today's episode. So, we are going to, essentially with this plan, we are going to focus on talking about just these volumes, essentially. So currently, we are only going to talk about volumes 1 and 2 of Arc 5, so volume 16 and 17. We're not going to talk about 18 yet, because you're not done that, and the anime's not done that, and all this sort of shit. Not to say that the anime needs to be done that.
Here, give me like half an hour, I can...
Yeah, alright, I'll talk about it in the meantime, and then he'll read it. Yeah, we're not going to talk about 18 yet, not because, like, we need people to be caught up to the anime, because at that point, fucking see you February, right? But it's more so a thing of, we're going to just go volume by volume, because it's a lot easier to keep track of this info and all that sort of shit. It's also a lot more concise. Like, if we were talking about volume 1 and then we were like, oh, and then the part where they eat, like, the food and all that sort of shit, and then, okay, that's where we're ending it off, like, it's a fucking awkward point to do it just in the middle. And that'd be the same thing with volume 3, right? It's like, oh yeah, we could talk about, like, the speech. We're not gonna. But like, it's like, oh, we could do that, except it doesn't really make sense. So, we're keeping it just to volume 1 and 2. Talk about all that. I actually get to share some unique experiences because I read the web novel, which is not super different from volume 1, but volume 2 there were some big differences towards the end.
Yeah, because you looked at me a few times, I remember.
Well, yeah, because like,
even with that Garfield moment, you looked at me like, wait, what?
No, yeah, there were some, well, yeah, because I looked to you because I was confused about that, and confused about some of the stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know about all that.
Because I said the episode did it, like, differently than the light novel, and you're like, it was the same as the web novel.
I don't know. I honestly don't remember what that was. But yeah, so there's some changes that have happened with the light novels that I don't know about. I will know about these for Arc 6 because I have full intention to read Arc 6 again before that shit drops. We don't know when, but before it drops, I'm going to sit my ass down and reread it, but via the light novel. And I get to see one of the butchered lines in there that I'm not looking forward to at all. So, yeah. I know the web novel, he knows the light novel. And that's why doing this sort of thing is also interesting, because then we get to talk about that. But, yeah, see, now we're reaching 20 minutes.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, luckily I was just about to say, let's shut the fuck up on that end, in terms of me talking about, like, oh yeah, so the plan is all this sort of shit. You all understand the plan by now. with that said, let's talk about it.
You know what? I'm sorry. I need to say this really quickly because I just think this is funny, and I think it's funny if everybody hears this. Before this, I was actually hanging out with friends, and I was waiting for you, right?
Yup.
And they were kind of like, "Wait, weren't you leaving in like a minute?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, wait, where's my brother? He said he was coming through." So
Yeah.
I went to go and get you, right? And I muted the mic. I put the headset down. I start walking away, and I hear from the headset clearly, "See, they are related." And I'm like, I heard that. And this also proves that we are related. I do this shit too. It's 20 minutes in. I do the exact same thing.
Why do these people need proof?
They don't need proof. It's just funny.
Give them a DNA sample or something. Actually, maybe don't do that. But like,
it's funny though. I always think it's really funny because it's like, see, he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh now seeing this.
Okay, before we talk about the volumes, I think there is something we should do.
Yes.
And that's, I am getting pinged. Hold on, let me type a very nice message. Keep yourself safe. All right. Anyways,
that sounds weird.
Take each first letter and you'll go from there. All right. So before we start, I'd like to actually talk about something else, and that is Arc 5 before you started reading. I want to discuss that. And just so far how it compares to what you've experienced right now. So, before this began, I'm gonna get people angry at me again. Because I did this with my review, and there was some people that seemed to be not too happy with me making the comparison, and it's like, yeah, I know it's based on Venezia, but like...
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about... Okay.
I don't know what else. But...
I think you're gonna talk about something else.
I don't know. But I made the comparison prior to of Water 7. When you were still watching Arc 4, or when you had just finished Arc 4. I'm like, yeah, Arc 5 is like Water 7. They're in a big city of water, and it literally fucking goes downward like Water 7. But it's like it goes downward, and if you destroy one of the towers, the whole city floods like Water 7. And all this sort of shit. And DePay is a big fan of One Piece, you know, the thing where Water 7 is from. But jokes aside, I did describe it as, you know, like, oh, it's ReZero's Water 7. There's a shit ton of action. There's a shit ton of tense stuff going on. There's a ton of big character moments and all this sort of shit. And saving people, I just never specified who. All that sort of shit. So it's like, it was a big thing of, I kind of just described it as like that. So, now I want to ask, because I do think it is legitimately different, and obviously, you know, there's going to be opinions on that. What would you say so far, at the very least, just keeping it small, what would you say so far in comparison to what I have described it as?
Like originally?
Yes. Oh, sorry, I dropped my phone. Almost in my notes. Continue.
That's nuts. Ooh.
I've hit him with the brain stumper.
You have, because I'm kind of like, honestly, it's kind of what I thought it was, in a sense. Like, I knew it wasn't the same as Water 7. I granted, I did completely forget about the fact that the center is like
inward?
Yeah, inward.
Yeah.
I completely I thought it was more flat, like like a proper like city. It's not. I did forget about that, but I think one of the pictures that came to mind, because this is another thing that I do associate it with, and I've associated Water 7 with, is from Pokemon Heroes, the 5th movie of Pokemon. They're in like the Venice kind of town as well.
Oh yeah.
So I had a bit of a picture of like kind of like that, but it's like it's more similar to Water 7, but it's less complex because it didn't have all those like upward layers and the different water gates and everything. Like it didn't have all that. It was more of a like simple. I'm just trying to describe what I initially thought.
No,
it had more of a simple thing. It's just the surrounding it was like towers that had like a kind of like what it has.
The best way to describe that, honestly, with the Pokemon movie, from what I remember, because this is like fucking knowledge from years ago.
That's one of my favorite Pokemon movies.
Yeah, weird that Ash kisses a Pokemon in that one, but I think that's that one.
Yes, but we don't actually know if it was or not her, because the Pokemon flies by in the air after, so he's like, wait,
I don't know. I mean, I'm still gonna consider it's almost Sonic 06 level of that
weird,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, and you're like,
I mean, Sonic 06 you do know, but
I guess not to the same extent because you don't know.
But with that, I do remember it was a lot more like, okay, as you would expect, the water there is completely flat in terms of appearance. Like you move along just as you normally would. A lot of structures around are properly, like, not to say like structures in this aren't square or in One Piece they aren't square, but it is a thing of like all the sidewalks and everything and all this sort of shit remain completely like level to everything else.
Yeah.
And all that sort of shit. Whereas I think both for One Piece and for Re:Zero, that shit, like I mentioned, goes inward. It's like it goes straight down, right? Like some of it's level and all that, but there is areas where it's just like, oh yeah, here's like the water just going directly down.
Yeah.
Like this would flood people probably.
I think one of the reasons I associated it with is you mentioned like the whole thing with the towers. If one gets destroyed, like it floods the town, and my memory did go back to, because Water 7 did kind of have a similar thing with like the water oh crap, what's it called?
The shit that occasionally happens where it's like the water kind of just gets too high, right?
Yeah. But like the reason even Water 7 made me think of Pokemon Heroes, and part of the reason was because in that movie, because the I can't remember what it was, but like I think it was like supposed to be like the Soul Dew or whatever it was like removed for enough time. They put it back, and then it's like it wasn't helping. They were screwed at that point because all the water retracted and it came back as like an enormous wave. And that's kind of what it made me think of, like, oh, an enormous wave is just gonna come flooding in and drown everybody. Similar to that. It's just it felt a little. It felt like that specific thing about it flooding everybody feels closer in my brain to Pokemon Heroes, only because the water isn't just rising like it is with One Piece's.
No.
The other two are literally, it's flooding. One's just leaving and it's all coming back at once, and the other's literally just, no, yeah, it's flooding. The thing broke and now it's flooding. Yeah,
the only thing I didn't remember with Water 7 is, like, because at the time of me reading through Arc 5, I think it had been a bit since, like I watched Re:Zero first, but I watched One Piece before I started reading Arc 5. Which wasn't even that long between each other, because I read Arc 5 by the end of the year that I watched Re:Zero. It was essentially like a few months difference. But I didn't remember whether or not in Water 7 they described the city as like, oh yeah, it has these big floods. Yeah, they pass every now and then. If one of these things is destroyed, though, we're fucked. Like, I didn't remember if they explained that if anything in the city.
I don't think they ever did.
And they probably don't.
In One Piece.
And that was probably on me. I probably just made that shit up in my head, and I was just like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That said, with the structure that it is, it wouldn't be shocking. Yeah, that was the one thing where it's like, okay, yeah, that's just like a common thing for a city like this, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's full of water.
Oh, that's what it was. It was the Soldu got corrupted, and that's what caused the town to. I was like trying to remember a little bit, like, because it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I did describe it as this sort of thing, and I mean now, I don't necessarily view it as I will say, okay. In regards to Water 7, you don't see it in the anime. In fact, the anime, I don't know what it's like in the light novel. It might be like this in the light novel. I am going to skip ahead here a bit and go to Volume 2. Garfield and Mimi versus the cultists there. That fight in the web novel, I think we might have discussed this. Garfield in the web novel of that, and I don't, like I said, don't know what it's like in the rest. In the web novel, he has a hybrid-like form where he takes on the beast appearance for the upper half. It kind of still has this like human proportions, but he has like the beast sort of like a tiger appearance to him. You can still see his eyes, and then also he's a lot like smaller and everything because it's just him taking on that form, but still being himself. And it was that coupled with the city that made me sit there and go, okay, cool, he's Lucci. Like, we've turned him into Lucci.
It kind of sounded, when I read it, it did sound like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna
say... But it looked different in the episode. It was just his arm, and I'm like, ah!
Yeah, okay, because I was gonna say, in the light novel, I think for Volume 2, there is... I think it's Volume 2. It might be for Arc 4. It's either Arc 4 or Volume 2. There is a concept illustration, like this breakdown of him, where it shows that hybrid form. I know because I mentioned, one of my most popular tweets is me talking about a design that they might not even show later, and it then got brought up of, oh yeah, you know what else wasn't shown, and it was that fucking design. And I was like, oh, let's hold out hope. Maybe they'll show it. And then I watched that like segment go by for like a minute, and I was like, oh, okay, we're not doing much of the fight, huh? And it was a little unfortunate, because it's like, I don't mind it, right? That part being slightly cut down isn't the worst, but I do like that small, like, scuffle between all of them and everything. Yeah. It's a cool little moment, especially because, like, actual fight-wise, it's neat to see Garfield go back and forth between them, even if he is easily fucking outclassed there. It's fun to see him like jump back and forth between. But yeah, that was another big thing that made me be like, oh, Water 7 because Lucci.
I know I wanted to say though that I made the reference as well to like the Pokemon Heroes movie, but I do hold it closer in my mind that it's more similar to Water 7 just because of the look itself.
Fair.
The look of the actual place, even though it's inverted instead of going up.
Yeah.
The actual look of it looks so much closer to that than like a normal kind of Venice type thing.
Yeah.
But I do really like the Venice look. It always looks good no matter what. I feel like it always involves flooding. But it's always interesting the way people do it.
I do think if there is like any issue with me, like not from you to me, I mean like towards people who might like view my review and stuff like that, if there is any issue to me mentioning that sort of stuff, I'm also not saying it with the intent to say that this is entirely Water 7. It is just a thing of, I would not be surprised if there are inspirations here, because Teppei is very open about when he loves a certain series and stuff like that. I mentioned One Piece he does really love, and he also makes a ton of references to Hunter x Hunter. I'm pretty sure actually, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Arc 2's whole thing of like, oh, the sound of chains, I'm pretty sure that is also supposed to be partially a reference. I could be wrong, but I believe that's also partially supposed to be a reference to Hunter x Hunter. Which is funny because I was watching, for the first time, I was watching that Hunter x Hunter arc with friends while my friend was also watching Arc 2 for the first time. So it was a very funny coincidence of both shows having their Sound of Chains moment happening for each of us for the first time. And you know, I got to sit there because he made a joke about it, and I got to sit there and go, "Oh, I get it now." But yeah, Teppei's also very open about stuff that he really enjoys, and sometimes, you know, he'll throw it in his work and everything. It's never too insane or just like, you know, like slammed in there, but it is a thing of like, I don't doubt the idea that he could enjoy something enough to be like, I want to do something similar but keep it different, right? Like, you could legitimately make the argument that the plot line of this arc, or like one of many plot lines of this arc, you know, oh, we gotta rescue Amelia and all that sort of shit. You could make the argument that is absurdly similar to Water 7. It's just the scenario of what's going on for that rescue, why they need to be rescued, all that sort of shit is completely different on like both ends. That's all I wanted to mention about that, really. With that said, we're still good. Okay. With that said, now that we got that out of the way, let's just, I guess, go through Volume 1 then Volume 2, even though I was skipping ahead there a bit. Without really necessarily recapping, because I think if we recap, we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
Without recapping, would you like to give your thoughts of Volume 1? And I'll share some web novel stuff or my own personal thoughts when I read through it, whenever. You want to go ahead on that?
I guess obviously I'm not going to recap the whole thing,
like
you said. So I'm trying to now pinpoint things that did stand out.
I can always immediately give
there are
prompts.
Some, definitely.
I can give like cue cards for shit of just like, oh, what about this?
Sure. Oh, shoot.
All right.
I know one thing I want to talk about, but we'll get there because I'm talking about the end of the volume.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I need to.
Let's keep it. Let's go in chronological. So let's talk about this time skip and everything. Any thoughts on how different the scenario is with, I guess, like the mansion, the new training grounds, Subaru's new whip, all that sort of shit and everything, all the character dynamics now going on? You can keep this one simple because it's a small, like, sort of thing.
I'm like, I don't really have too much for this.
It doesn't take up too much time. It's just like, it is a thing of like, I think it's important to note because it is something that builds into these characters.
I was trying to picture it was hard. The actual mansion. Until the episode came out.
Yeah.
So that was handy. But yeah, trying to picture that was a little difficult for me. But the fact that he has his own training grounds and now has a whip is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also like, I guess he didn't want a sword. He wanted to be unique.
No, yeah, so it's a thing of... I explained it in a bad way when I did my review. Because I knew I was wrong, even though I was, like, saying what I said. But it's essentially... it's kind of the thing of, like...
He wants to assert his dominance over the archbishops.
That's one way to put it. I had a comment from it that was described best for it from the same person who actually did point out the Garfield hybrid form thing to me. Let me double check what it was real quick.
Okay, while you're double checking that,
yeah,
I guess I could say something else.
If you want to mention
because I do have one other thing that I could say about the beginning portion.
Sorry.
Oh, you found it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it word for word. I hope they don't mind. Or at least overall. It's not about the whip being easier to learn because I had originally thought whip easier to learn than sword. super had kendo experience, so obviously, he had kendo experience and he trained with Wilhelm, so he already had experience with a sword, whereas a whip was completely from scratch. But he's not very talented with the sword, no matter how much he tries. And then for someone as weak as him, a weapon that doubles as mobility to keep him out of harm's way is a major bonus, which is a good point to make.
That's
true.
Like,
keep him out of harm's way. As we actually see in some of the episodes and also some of the chapters, him managing to pull stuff towards him and all this sort of shit, or essentially cause a distraction or use something as a distraction, like the rock against Capella.
Like, he was even able to follow Julius up to the top.
Yeah,
because of the whip.
Yeah, partially because of the whip. He was able to get into the room because of the whip, like all this sort of stuff.
He was able to save himself
that's a big part of it
because of it too. Like all of that.
I will say personally, I hope you're not forgetting what you want to mention. Because,
no, I'm not.
I will say personally, I was happy to see the grounds because, like you mentioned, I wasn't really sure what it looked like. They never really made an illustration for it or anything, which is fine.
For me, I didn't have as much trouble with the grounds. It was more so the actual mansion itself, because it did look different.
Well, yeah, they imply it's really different, and I mean, maybe I just missed a few details, but I remember when I was watching episode 1, I was just a teensy bit disappointed because the mansion looked identical. Like, we don't know what the outside of it looks like, but, like, the hallway, everything, like, they walk into the room, and then it's like, oh yeah, there's the 2 couches across from each other and all that sort of shit, just like there was originally. Here's Roswell's desk area, which overall seems the same. Maybe there's a few differences with, like, the bookshelf or something, whatever it may be. But it's like a lot of it, when I was watching, I remember being like, oh, this is not too different. Like, I mentioned the couches, I guess they're shifted, like, they're shifted closer to the window. But, like, you know, it's a small tad bit disappointing to see, like, oh, exact same design as before. Now, I know it's a pain in the ass to make a brand new mansion sort of design and everything, like, just from scratch. But it is partially a thing of, like, I don't know, when I hear new location, I almost assume, oh, we're getting a brand new location with this stuff. And then it's like, oh, never mind. Like, definitely the training area does make it look like a different location, like, just from the general way it looks. Because from constant rewatching memory, the path to the mansion has just like, oh yeah, here's like the village, and then you make your way towards there, but then there's like a shit ton of trees on the side and all this sort of stuff. It 100% looks different than that. And honestly, I mean, it does have me curious on the general layout compared to like the village and all that. But just teensy bit of disappointment with that because I was like, damn. Anyways, you had something you want to mention. I feel like that's more important.
It was about the like relationships between him and these new people, these new characters.
Yeah.
So because it's been a year, it's kind of like, oh yeah, he's met like certain people who he hasn't met before, and you know, you're meeting them for the first time. And I know some people aren't big on that because they're just like, you know, who is this new character? Like, why is he just shoved in here? Can't we have something for it that makes it feel more natural? But honestly, I kind of like it because it still feels natural to me. Because it's like, it's been an entire year. It's like their world kept moving along. We didn't join them for every single adventure. And I mean, I know there's the what's it called? The like, the other books.
The EX novels.
Yeah, thank you. The EX novels that have that stuff, but I'm honestly okay even if they don't in a way, even if they didn't, because it's kind of nice to see like, yeah, he's growing, he's learning. Like, you didn't see it all happen, but it's like, this is how far he's kind of come in a year after everything that's happened from Arc 4, and I kind of really like that because it's like, it's similar to One Piece in the way of it feels like the world was still moving, like things were still happening throughout the world as time went on. Because after that, they also like later on in the volume when he's talking to other like candidates and stuff, they mention achievements that they've had during that time.
Yeah.
And other stuff. And it's like, it's really awesome to see things move along like that, even though you don't need to see everything. You don't need to be, you don't need to like experience it all. Some of it can be like said, because it's a time skip to this important part now. Because there was nothing like as substantial, but there were things that still happened that made all of this happen. Like the positions they have now as like, you know, Super's the knight, Otto's the like
we'll go with
merchant mediator.
Yeah, we'll go with he's the group's like manager in a sense.
Yeah, the manager. That's the best way to put it. Garfield's
I know he has an actual role.
Garfield's just a protector, basically.
Yeah, he's literally considered like the shield.
Yeah. So it's like, I like how that's kind of all moved along. It's great. And it makes me wonder too, where like what positions are some of the others in now because of that. Like, I don't think there's anybody else really, but it's like Roswell's supposed to help. Ram has helped them before. Ram, sorry. Watching it with a friend, so he's watching a dub, so that doesn't help.
You've been watching a dub with a lot of people, but yeah.
I have, yeah, because they're just like, screw it. If the dub's good, then sure.
I heard the dub of Capella, by the way. Fantastic.
Fantastic? Oh, yeah, okay. I was worried about that, to be honest.
Actually, I should preface this. I'm not just saying that about Capella, because literally every fucking clip I've seen so far of the dub, like from all the episodes, sounds fantastic. I am just specifically stating that because that was one of the voices. I'm like, okay, I'm hoping
she was the one I was most concerned.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is nailed in the dub because I don't want. I'm hoping that it's not too high pitched, but it's not too like low or
I can't wait to
hear whatever it may be, and it's just like it hits the perfect middle ground. It's great.
Probably watch it eventually.
I mean, you're going through it with friends at some point.
Exactly.
You probably are going to.
Honestly, there is a part of me that's like, we could get our friend in this at some point when he gets to us. Like once he's at a certain point, he could just join us for this and talk about it.
Yeah.
If people are interested, that means tell us.
Yep.
Because I don't want to just do it to do it.
No, fair.
Although I could see us doing it for Bleach, but that's a different. That's an entirely different story.
Yeah. One thing I do want to actually mention, about some of this stuff, is because we were mentioning that, like, oh yeah, like the time that passes and everything. I am so fucking glad that the anime fixes one of the biggest issues I have. With the light novel, and it's this gets horrible later. Like this gets really bad later. But Teppei, half of the time, expects you to get the physical volumes and start reading them. Now, I'm all for supporting the series and everything like that, and, you know, allowing it to continue to grow, all this sort of shit. I'm all for that. However, I have slight issues when characters are introduced in side stories, and then I don't know them, and then I read about them in the web novel, and then I'm confused as shit as to who the fuck they're talking about. My prime example is Liliana. Liliana, holy shit, when we get to volume 4, I'm gonna have some words. And she's probably gonna be way better in the light novel. I mean, she's already better in the anime.
Yeah, I have no problems with her in the light novel.
But when we get to volume 4, I'm gonna have some words. They're gonna be very strongly worded. But Liliana in the web novel fucking shows up and you have no clue who she is. Unless you've read these side stories, she does not make sense to be there. And even in the light novel, she is like that. She shows up, you're supposed to know her already. That's it. The thing I recently got, well, not recently, because I think it was like a month or two ago, but the Tepenshu, or whatever, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, Tepensho, whatever. It is a collection of side stories. I believe she's in that. Like, she's in the first one, I believe. That's where you actually learn about her. Problem is, you don't have that. You don't know who the fuck she is. And let me give a reminder for people. The latest volume we got, outside of manga and that and all this sort of shit. The latest volume we got was the end of Arc 6. So, being introduced to Liliana via Volume 16, and then that coming out now, yeah, now you have your introduction of her, but you didn't before. So this character shows up out of nowhere. You're supposed to know who she is. They have to explain it to you. It's kind of annoying. And like I said, this issue with the side story stuff gets so much fucking worse. When we eventually get to Arc 7, holy shit, I'm gonna have some strong words again. Because that is the worst example of it. But I am very thankful for the anime. And the fact that the anime, no bullshit, just went, oh yeah, this is our first time meeting her. We're changing that, by the way. This, right now, this moment of them talking to her, this is their first time meeting her. Yeah, she knows them because Super is a popular motherfucker. But, other than that, yeah, they're complete strangers. And I am so thankful they did that, because that means from now on, any character who is introduced, who was supposed to be introduced before, is getting that treatment.
Most likely.
Thank God. Probably, yeah. I hope that other side story shit is just tackled in there. Okay, something to note is that, again, I'm going to skip ahead a bit. Auto encountering Lie is in there, which is good, because I'm pretty sure that's also a side story thing. I think it's a side story thing that was included in the volume itself. I think.
The anime's doing things right this time. Woo!
Yeah, which that thing, when we get later into the arc, I'll go into why that moment is so fucking funny. I think it's that moment. No, I think it's a different moment. I'm thinking of a different moment. I'm thinking of a moment that might be from that volume. But I am thankful that that is in there, because it's like, okay, cool, we actually will probably be getting side story scenes in there, which means anything that is relevant will be put in. Any character that hasn't been introduced before that should have been introduced will be reintroduced as a new character. So that's really damn nice. Anyways, I don't know if that's all we want to say.
That was kind of it for that beginning portion. Yeah.
I will say,
I don't really have anything else for that.
I mentioned it in my review. I do really love how the beginning portion ends with this scene of, oh yeah, Subaru goes into Rem's room every night and tells her about the day and everything.
Yeah.
It's cute. I think, I don't know what there was a break time that was released alongside this episode, and it involved her, and I assume it's either a dream from her or it's a dream from Subaru or some shit. Like some wacky made up scenario that's just kind of funny. I gotta look into that. I gotta watch the break times at some point. But that's cute. There's also an illustration at the end of Volume 1 that's a cute thing of just like, oh, like imaginary scenario of her imagining the two of them kissing and all that. It's like, oh, that's sweet. You're never getting that, but that's sweet. But yeah, alright. So with that out of the way, let's just tackle a big chunk here. Priscilla. Let's just fucking talk about Priscilla as a whole. What would you like to say about Priscilla as a whole? Literally everything that happens there prior to theatrical malice.
Sorry, the last part threw me off. What?
Prior to theatrical malice, like the end of the volume. Prior to that, what would you like to say about everything that happens between them arriving at the city and what would the scene before that be? I guess Subaru and like Priscilla and Liliana and Amelia and Beatrice all interacting. From that portion, is there anything you would like to note about that?
Damn! Like, okay, she did this in Arc 3, where she did take Subaru to the Royal Candidate Selection thing. Hall, the whatever it's technically called, because where they all gathered. She took him there, and I remember she even said it was just, she, like, beforehand, she was saying to Subaru that it was just for her amusement. Because it amuses, or not for her amusement, but she was saying it amuses her.
Priscilla.
Yeah. So, then we come here to this arc, and she does that thing with
Heinkel.
Okay, that is how you.
Yeah, I knew this is where it was going.
I was gonna say Hinkle, but
I knew this is where it was going.
With that, and she's like, "I did it for my views." And I'm like, "What is wrong with her?"
No, yeah,
she just does things because she thinks they'll be funny.
Yeah,
to her.
Reading that in the web novel, I mean, obviously, like, you had the same experience.
Damn.
Reading that in the web novel, I sat there, I'm like, this bitch. Like, it was a thing of just, oh my god, she brings this motherfucker who's drunk off his ass just saying shit to these two, and just really digging the grave further for, like, their whole family, all this sort of shit, like, the relationship they all share.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then she just shows up and be like, yeah, funny, haha, I'm having fun.
But there is something that's, like, caught my eye in a way too with how this happened, because, like, okay, speaking of later on she seems to be, like, the most recent episode's probably a good example. I think, no, not the most recent episode, but the one before, which would involve, we're talking about volume,
still volume 3, but yeah,
it's volume 3.
Yeah.
But, like, when she's doing all that, I'm kind of like, wait, but I thought she does things because they amuse her. I mean, sure, she's looking around for the kid. But, like, there's clearly a hint of, like, she protected Subaru. She's letting Liliana, free people from Wrath's, like, grasp. And I'm kind of like, something's odd about this. Like,
I will say,
because this doesn't seem like she would, even though she really likes Liliana, I'm like, she doesn't seem like she would just let this kind of happen.
Yeah,
there's nothing here for her that would amuse her.
Something to note is that she is not entirely amusement, because her iconic quote is, "Everything in the world is essentially, like, made for her, like, made to serve her, made to amuse her," all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So a big thing,
but even that, like, all with that stuff that I just mentioned, it didn't feel like that was something that was, like, made for her.
Yeah,
in that sense of, like,
it's basically a thing of,
this is, like, out of character.
It's basically a thing of, like, if the world is made for her, first of all, she needs people who worship her and everything and all that sort of shit. So innocent people dying is not exactly something she wants on her list.
Of course.
And then it's also a thing of, well, if these motherfuckers are just going to decide to show up and say, no, this is our place, she's going to go, no, this is my fucking place, I'm kicking your ass.
That is also true. Even with all that, though, it is a little bit, like, I'm not saying it's bad Strange, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's bad at all. It's making me rethink about how I feel about her, because I'm like, there is absolutely something else here. There is, I knew there was not going to just be her being completely, the world revolves around her.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like she was going to be that way, but then this stuff started happening in Volume 3 of Arc 5, Volume 18, technically, and I kind of went, yeah, I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Like, it doesn't feel like that, even though it's like, yeah, of course she's going to want to protect people, but I'm kind of like, so, for example, like, the times she, like, kind of, like, was just staring at Subaru during this volume as well, when he was, like, saying things and other stuff, and she was like, she just kind of stared at him, and he's like, what? She's like, nothing. I'm like, clearly something. Clearly.
No.
And even with, like, the it's like the 2 times that, like, she's gone overboard, it's weird because it feels like there was some other purpose to it in a way. Like the first time I know it fucked up with Subaru and Amelia and their relationship.
Yeah.
But they were probably screwed if that didn't happen. Because like the Sloth and Betelgeuse and like his group would have messed them up. They would have not been able to do anything. And Roswell, I mean, wouldn't have really helped because we know he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird scenario of like, wait, like, sure, maybe there was another way around that, but that actually seemed to help him. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, like this whole thing with, you know, Reinhardt's father, Wilhelm's son.
Yeah.
It seems to like it caused a gap between them again when they were trying to patch it up, possibly. And now I'm kind of like, what? Like, so wait. She did this because she thought it would amuse her. But at the same time, I'm looking at this like... She's also ready to chop this man's head off. Because she kicked him on the floor and was about to kill him.
I mean, I think it's partially a thing of he was just being irritating at that point. Like, she was like, okay, you're done. You're boring now.
Yeah. But then, it also, like, it's weird because it's like... I'm like... Wilhelm and Reinhardt are probably gonna make amends eventually, and we're probably gonna get. I'm probably gonna hear about like what's going on eventually as I get through. It might not. It might not be in Arc 5. It might be in Arc 6. It might be in Arc 7. I don't know. I'm guessing Arc 6. But like my thing is kind of like with the way this is going. It actually seems like for whatever reason, this like gap that happened might cause a better outcome for Reinhardt and Wilhelm down the line. So I'm kind of a little like thrown off in the sense of like she said she did it for her amusement. But to be frank, I think the scenario they'll get later will probably be better for them to reconcile as grandfather and grandson. And I'm like, that would be like the second time that her amusement causes a better scenario, a better outcome for everybody. I'm kind of like, I don't know how I feel about you right now, in the sense of I'm suspicious. I'm fucking suspicious. And I don't know, maybe it's overthinking, but I'm just like, there's clearly a reason, not just. It seems to be more specific. Like it's specific scenarios, and I'm kind of like, she causes issues, even bigger issues, but then they get fixed even better in the end. At least the one we got with Amelia and Subaru, and I'm like, wait, is that going to happen with this one too? Then. Is this only for amusement? Like, damn.
I will say, I was surprised.
Sorry, I'm spitballing.
That's fine, it's fine. I was surprised by that in the anime, which also, from what I gather, is actually like that in the light novel. Because when I looked ahead of that, it seemed to be that some of the explanation was there. So right now, I'm pretty sure you don't know the reason for this ripple that happened between Wilhelm and Reinhardt, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. I was also gonna say, what's weird too is she also told Amelia to go and help Subaru and Beatrice. Like it might be a good idea to do that when they went to confront Wrath together. So that was another thing that kind of like made me go, wait a minute, what?
Fair.
Come again? Like it's stuff like that. That's like, wait. Even though it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, fair.
That's why I'm like, something more here.
Yeah, so I will note, in regards to that whole reason thing, I am, like, 75, maybe 80% sure that reason by this point is explained in the web novel, and it's actually, I'm pretty sure, explained by Julius. I think Julius, during that episode 1 scene where he's just like talking to Subaru and everything, I think part of that, if I remember correctly, involves him talking about the reason, or at least some of it.
I know it involved things with the white whale. You know, Raihan's mom, don't Raihan's grandmother, and Wilhelm's wife / Wilhelm's wife, and stuff like that. But they didn't really say like the details. It just kind of like it involved the white whale. Yeah. Even when I read it,
they might not
involve the white whale.
They might not have even said the details in there, and I just don't fully remember it. Like I said, this is why I didn't go like 90% with that, because it's like I knew they probably talked about it there. I just didn't remember how much. But yeah, that's obviously more later. They'll go into it. That might have also been the case with web novel, and I'm just misremembering. But I do remember them talking about it there. And that's like, it was a bit of a surprising thing to watch the anime and not see that brought up. And I was like, oh, that's not here. Okay, I guess that's later.
Like, Priscilla's a bitch, but also I'm like, there's definitely something there, like some kindness or something.
Yeah.
Very clearly.
I don't know what else to mention about some of the stuff in between. I mean, it's just like fun. Oh yeah, here's like characters and stuff like that, and you get all that sort of nice stuff.
I will say something I did want to say about the first volume specifically. I do really like that we kind of, I know you told me about like all the candidates and everything were there before I even got to reading this.
I mentioned like everybody's there.
Yeah.
And then I had to state it again of everybody's there.
But yeah, which that second part I didn't completely understand. Until I read it.
Yeah.
But when I was reading it, it was kind of like, I think one of the other things I'm actually really enjoying a lot about this arc, and also it's really nice seeing the episodes with it too, is and this is more towards the actual arc itself so far, rather than like anything specific. But I think the beginning is like probably one of the best examples. Because like when they're eating and interacting and everything, I honestly found it really nice to kind of see more of each of their characters, since they've kind of been in arc 3. They were kind of relevant, all of them, but they weren't. They only got like small little pieces. Like Krush was the most relevant, but even then, she was kind of just around for the white whale fight for the most part. Like, sure, she was helping Subaru a bit,
potential,
and like of course the end, like they had a discussion with Subaru and Amelia and everything, but like other than that, like Subaru was kind of involved in most things, and you know, it involved like Wilhelm and other people. Like when he was able to get their help, she was really only involved for the white whale fight, whereas like Rem was involved up until that point, as an example, like fully involved pretty much. So it's kind of like it's been kind of nice, like I said, especially with this first one, to see all of them interacting, and that's kind of why I honestly, as much as Priscilla was a bitch with the whole thing that happened, it was honestly kind of nice to kind of see everybody be themselves more, like have them all act as their like be as their character, because they are their character, because well, fucking you know what I mean.
Works, but
yeah, I know. Have them all like be themselves, and have a fun kind of like just mostly fun, because Priscilla was different, but but like just getting more of their characters overall is what I'm saying. It was really nice to get to see more of their characters, because I really didn't know how I felt about all the other candidates, and now I have more of an opinion on each one. I think the only one I don't have as much of an opinion on is Felt, because so far I haven't seen too much of her. Like Anastasia's been involved a lot, and I kind of really like her now, and like even some of her like I guess underlings is one way to put it. I don't want to use underlings, but some of her comrades.
That's
Yeah, comrades.
People who work for her, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, like Ricardo and Mimi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, I kind of absolutely love them both now.
Yeah.
Like they just all needed a bit more for me, and I think I might have mentioned that during the character thing where I was ranking characters. How like I said like some of them needed a bit more for me. I still need a bit more from them, and I think with this arc I've been getting that, and I'm honestly a lot more happier with all of them. Even Reinhardt too. Like, we didn't get much of him. He's a badass. He's awesome. But it's, like, it's kind of nice to see his like, weak side, in a way. As powerful as he is. And also with the whole thing of, like, how he accidentally killed so many people because he killed Wrath.
Yeah.
like, it's just, like, it's so cool to see all of that. And even, like, I feel like with the archbishops, too, we're getting to see more of them now that like Regulus and Lai were introduced, but we didn't really see too much. Like Regulus was the only one we actually got to see more of, rather than like other than pedal use. But it was nice to. I haven't seen too much of Lai, but like Lust is great, Capella's great. I mean, and so Sirius is pretty freaky, just like pedal use, but.
And then our boy Roy. Let's go, Roy.
I need more for him specifically still, but I'm sure I'll get it. He's involved in this arc, like he's super important, obviously. So it's kind of like, and I do expect him to kind of absolutely be the next one to go. If anybody's going in this arc or arc 6, I expect him to be the one to bite the dust. To put it in JoJo terms.
I mean, Queen would be the more obvious thing, but yeah.
Wait, what?
Well, that's what Bites the Dust is based on, is Queen, which is based on the term.
Yeah.
So, like, okay.
No, I know. I'm being nerdy instead of being...
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's
more fun that way.
You're being nerdy instead of being also nerdy, but, like, in the other sense.
In the sense of music.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it's still.
But yeah, I like. I'm kind of like, I wanna see Capella's horrible. She is a horrible, horrible person. But there is a part of me that's like, honestly, I hope her and Regulus live. I want to see more of them. I want to see how shittier they can be, please.
This is something I always like. I mean, I think I've
also because they're OP as fuck. Definitely, they're like the most broken of the two right now.
They
absolutely like holy shit.
Capella, especially, is something I needed to preface. I think in my reactions. I think I did, anyways. I know some people get the idea to stick their dick in crazy and all this sort of shit. I ain't like that at all. Right, I will.
I was not ready for that.
I will constantly, and I have said this before, even on Twitter. I have constantly made fun of friends and stuff like that when they look at Elsa and they go, and I'm like, no, shut the fuck up, no, your penis is getting cut off, no.
Elsa's too far, man. Elsa's too far.
Yeah, no, that is somebody who is going to either cut it off or bite it off. It's like you do not stick your dick in crazy.
I honestly kind of miss Elsa though. I will say as a character, because I'm kind of like, as I've been watching it with my friend, I'm kind of like, fuck, she was badass. I love it.
Something to make a quick.
I want to learn more about Melee though.
To make a quick little travel over to her. Like Melee's gonna be fantastic, right? When you get later.
Because I know you really like her character, so I'm kind of like,
she is in my like actual top 5. Yeah, so. To make a small side shortcut travel to Elsa here, I will say there's a lot I could say about Teppei's writing with characters in a very good way, by the way. I'm not saying this is like, oh yeah, there's a lot I could say. Fuck that guy. No. There's a lot I could say about his writing of characters and how much of a genius he can be with some of this stuff and everything. And there's certain types of tropes that he does really fucking well. Like we mentioned Reinhardt with the whole thing with Wrath. I fucking, like, I don't have Reinhardt as high up as a lot of people do. I think for me, I put him in, like, A or something like that. Like, he's great. By all means, I just need more from him if I want to really put him high.
Mm-hmm.
But as an overpowered character, as a character with so much
The man
shit,
who just dashes through water like it's
Yeah,
nothing.
the type of character that people have to, like, look at and go, like, he probably doesn't beat Goku at all, but at the same time, there's a lot of really strong anime characters that he could fight.
Yeah.
As much as he's a character like that, I do love how Teppei writes him and everything as this, oh, he's absurdly overpowered and has all this sort of shit, and he was just given that sort of stuff at birth. Problem with that, he has a lot of low self-esteem sort of issues because his peers around him, Furious and Julius and all this, they get to constantly improve. He can't improve. He literally cannot. He is the best with a sword. He is the best with all sorts of weapons. He is the best at telling salt from sugar. Literally one of his things, by the way. Like, yeah, like it's such an interesting thing to give like a character this much shit, to give him like every divine protection in the world, and then go, yeah, by the way, his self-esteem sucks because he doesn't like that he can't improve. That is so fucking good. I love that. That is a really damn good detail, and the fact that he is a lot, like, he is absurdly formal. I'm not going to say Julius isn't, because Julius is, of course, but there are times where Julius, you know, kind of cracks under the pressure and stuff like that. You get occasional moments. But Reinhardt is interesting, because as much as you can see it on his face, that man never cracks. That man tries to keep it together at all times, and it's kind of fucking crazy to have his character be like this. So, in regards to all that, right, let's look at the character he faces and everything in terms of how they're written. Elsa is fucking fantastic as a character as well, because she is entirely, I'm going to say this in a positive way, it's not going to sound positive, I'm going to say this in a positive way. She is entirely one note. She is, I like to kill, that's it. This is just an assassin who likes to kill. That's her entire character, and yet she gets to be super enjoyable despite that being her entire character. Yeah, she has a backstory, obviously, very relevant. Yeah, she has her relationship with Marley, obviously, very relevant. Their relationship with their mama, all this, relevant. But it's a thing of, like, Elsa overall is a very simple villain. This is your cookie cutter villain of person who kills that we have to kill so that they don't kill other people. But Teppei wrote her well enough as a character that people really fucking enjoy her. I know of people who have her either in their, like, top 10, top 5, top 3, even some people who have them, like, have her as, like, their favorite character.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, this is a character that he cooked on, absolutely. And it's, like, kind of shocking because it's, like, there's not much depth, but he did do a really good job. Like, I don't think people can necessarily critique that super harshly if somebody holds her that high, because it is a thing of, like, well, that's how she's written. She's written well enough, like, much like Reinhardt, who is an overpowered character, and you would think, I'm not going to like the overpowered character. Both of them are written well enough where it's like, despite their dynamics and everything, you'll enjoy them. So, that's a big thing. Going back to what we were saying, though, about Capella and all that. Capella's such an interesting fucking character to me, because she, like I was saying, like, oh, don't stick your dick in crazy, right, all that sort of shit. I'm not that, those types of people and stuff like that. But, thing is, I really enjoy Capella as a character, because this is the most rotten piece of shit, the garbage sort of being I've ever seen in an anime. Like, I'm gonna be real, I legitimately could not think of a better example than her. She is horrible, right? There is so much shit you learn with her that just makes you sit there and want to go, man, I hope they don't kill her so that they seal her up somewhere and just have that place burning. Let her eternally burn or some shit. It is such a horrid character, and yet she is written so well that she easily gets slapped into my top 10. Like, she is number 7, I believe, or something like that, or number 8, where it's just like, it's that easy. This character is such a villain that you want to hate that she gets slapped in there, and that's like, it floors me. It really does, because like, I mean, shit, you're already really enjoying her, even though the fact that she is this much of a scumbag and everything, it's like, I don't know.
It's what's interesting about this though as well is what I was saying about I hope her and Regulus don't die yet, because I want to see more of them. Part of it is I want to kind of see, and we've talked about this before, specifically with Capella, but I am very curious about Regulus too. I mean, I'm curious about all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Petalgeese we saw, kind of.
We saw
Mostly.
enough.
Yeah.
With him. We saw a whole ass backstory with him.
Yeah. And Sirius we might have. Depending on what that
Depending on if the theory is correct.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, I was mentioning this, and I said to him about, wow, you know, Capella's really making me think, what caused her to be like this?
No, yeah,
what shit has she gone through? And that makes me wonder about Regulus too. Like, what shit did he go through to basically end up being this fucking greedy in terms of like getting mad at people interrupting him speaking and then chopping their arm off with his witch factor?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, something I
what?
Something I want to know of Capella getting mad. When I read it in the web novel, I wasn't fully sure, because Capella's an odd character. You know, she acts however she does, if it fits the scenario for her, right? This is a character who does shit for their own amusement. But, like, she acts the way she does because of, you know, all this sort of shit, like amusement, or, you know, as much as you can hate her, she is absurdly smart, and knows how to plan a shit ton of stuff. But, like, I wasn't sure when I was reading it if when she was getting angry, if it was just like, oh, her putting on an act or something. And I'm like, you know, she sounds really angry based on the words, and then also the description of, like, the prose there made it sound like she was angry. It's like, but I'm not sure fully. Like, I feel like she is. I just can't fully tell. And then we get the anime, and we get to that scene, and, you know, her facial expressions, her VA going crazy. I'm like, nope, yeah, she's mad. Alright, yeah. There is something that happened that, you know, she's obviously angry about, which I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
The Fred that I brought up and everything, which I brought up in my reaction stuff as well, where it kind of delved into Capella and how the fact that as a character, with what she says, it very much feels like she views love as lust. It is this misconception that people have that it is solely just, no, it's just lust. You view somebody in this manner because you like this specific aspect and you're lusting over that, rather than a proper sort of feeling of love and everything. Like, rather than, like, essentially what Subaru does there, right? He denies that shit and all this sort of stuff, and that pisses her off. And then additionally, Krush's existence herself pisses her off, because it's literally just this, no, what you are is, you know, like, to put it in the most blunt but kind of hard, not even kind of, pretty harsh way possible, to her, Krush is just, no, you are a woman, right? That is it. That is all you are. Despite the fact that you're trying to act like this military sort of commander and all this sort of stuff, and try to act like more than that, no. Right? And that's kind of like the narrative that Capella tries to push onto her. Which makes an interesting thing, where it's like, you do end up wanting to learn what the fuck happened to Capella to create this sort of mindset. But yeah.
I think the others don't, I wouldn't say they don't interest me, but I think the others don't interest me as much, aside from Regulus, because Lai, you could kind of, I feel like with him, it's definitely something of like, he could have starved to death and everything. Like, he's tiny. He's tiny, like he was still probably a kid. Like, he could have starved to death, something. Like, it's obviously much darker than that, but it's kind of like, it's probably something along those lines. Serious, because of the theories and stuff, yeah, it's probably something along those lines, if not, maybe something close to it. Who knows? Because the fact that it is similar to Fortuna doesn't mean it couldn't be a different elf either.
Yeah.
Like, it's just obviously because of the relationship between her and Betelgeuse, that's kind of like, that's what's kind of edging that on. But it's like, there could have been someone else that was infatuated with Betelgeuse. Why would an elf be living outside of that forest? Don't know, but there could be something else, right? But it's like, most likely, yeah, that probably is her, because of, like, you showed me the tarot card.
Yeah, the tarot card does show her like with golden chains. And then also, something to note is, I believe this is correct, when Elior Forest, I'm pretty sure I'm getting that right, I might be getting that wrong.
Yeah, it's Elior
When Elior Forest gets frozen over, everybody gets frozen over except her, I believe. Like, I think her corpse is still on the ground, which is another big thing to note in that regard.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's most likely her. With Betelgeuse, it's kind of like, we kind of saw what happened to him. We already kind of, and it's like, it is heartbreaking in a way, but it's like, I wasn't as interested to find out about Betelgeuse's backstory, even though I was still interested.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Sirius, same with Lie. I'm more interested in Lie, but like, not as Capella and Regulus are more interesting because they're absurdly broken on one hand. There's the two that are absurdly broken, and the two that just seem the most interesting of how the others make sense of how they became this way. But I'm sitting here thinking, how the fuck did these two become this way?
Yeah.
Like, because even before Betelgeuse's backstory, I could kind of see how people could possibly become that way as well. It happened differently, but I could see that, right? And it's kind of like, it's similar to Sirius. I can kind of see it too, even without, if I were to remove that information. But it's with Regulus and Capella, I'm kind of like, what happened to you two? Like, what happened to Capella to make her this fucked up with, like, the views of love? What happened to Regulus to make him so greedy in his own way, of course?
By this point, we're talking about Volume 2.
I know. And
it's fine. It's just...
And like, his whole thing with, like, all these wives, and it's like, did everyone hate him? Like, did no one love him? Was he never allowed to speak his mind or anything? Like, what the fuck happened to this man? Yeah. I wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I don't think we actually have time to discuss Volume 2.
I think we've said a decent bit about it.
Because I'd like to say stuff about
Theatrical
Volume 1.
Yeah. Still. I mean, I think we've said a lot about Volume... I can't think of what else we have to mention in Volume 2 other than, like...
I guess it honestly evolves a lot. I don't know. There's other scenarios that happen in Volume 2 that I'm like... that are cool. But I guess I don't really exactly need to talk about them. Yeah. Essentially.
I mean, I can be like, oh yeah, like I like how the anime handled the Garfield running in scene. Like that was really good.
Like
I
Garfield's is probably the only one I would still like. I would have left to talk about.
I think okay. You know what? I think if we keep these short, it might be so. Let's talk about Theatrical Malice.
Yeah, honestly, it's only quick that I kind of want to talk about that one.
So let's talk about that. Let's do the Garfield stuff, and I think then we are essentially set for these. Because I don't think there's not much more.
If I think of anything else, I can just bring it up quickly.
I don't think we're gonna sit here and be like, let's go potential woman cruise, watch her lose another fight.
Poor cruise.
Okay, so let's keep it to the two.
So I wanna Theatrical Malice. I was reading it. I was wondering what the hell was going on. I was so confused. And then it started dawning on me about, like, wait, for whatever reason, if she drops this kid, are they all going to die too? It made me it kind of egged me on like because they were all kind of chanting for him to be brave, and I'm like, wait, does that necessarily mean something of their, like, you know, like it kind of connected them to him, like what is going on? And then, well, obviously she drops him.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic in the anime as well, don't get me wrong, because I've seen people react to it like, what the fuck? Like over time. But the way it's written as well is really damn great, because like
it makes you kind of see it coming.
Again, Teppei, you motherfucker, you're really good with this. He writes the dialogue and it starts off normal and it's like, all right, but then they're going and you're like, these characters are getting a little too lenient. Right?
Yeah, like everybody's getting lenient, and it's like, this doesn't feel right.
Like she just announced she was an archbishop. We're getting real lenient with the fact that we're listening to her right now. And it's like, okay, you know what? We've humored the archbishops before. There's been characters who've humored them before. Ironically, the one who didn't, the one who had, you know, no questions, straight action, was Krush. As soon as she saw Regulus, it was just, no, fuck you. And that was to her detriment. But it's like, it's a thing of, you know, it's like, okay, they've humored the archbishop before, so maybe this is just another scenario like that again. But then it gets more and more and more on her side, and it's like, wait, I don't like how this dialogue is going.
Yeah.
And I really fucking love that Teppei writes it like that, because it is like, it's even like slowly working its way into your mind. Like, you're not thinking the same thing as them, but instead what you're thinking is, as you're reading the scene, you're getting that emotion of, nah, something's not right here. Like, it builds up. It's tiny when you think they're just being lenient. It becomes massive when, you know, by the point that she brings the kid out, right? I fucking
yeah. Once she brings the kid out, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then, yeah, she dropped him, and it just, that'll happen in Super Reset. And I want to stress this, because I like, that, even though I kind of felt it coming, it shocked me the way it happened. I was not expecting it the way it happened.
No.
Because I was reading it, you know, his skull cracks, and all of theirs though too. But the way it's worded in the light novel is, it said, it's like, sounded like a cracking of an egg, and then suddenly it was like multiple dozens on dozens of eggs cracking, and all of a sudden he's now back where Amelia and Liliana and Beatrice and Priscilla are, and I'm like, as I was reading it, I paused, because I could not believe what just happened, in the sense of what happened, but also I was so confused, because I was like, whoa, what did eggs have to, what? I kind of like, I was taken aback, and I slammed the book closed. I kind of looked around like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
We were...
I will say, it is...
We were on the bus when that happened. I slammed that book.
We were on a train.
Or a train, yeah. And I slammed that book.
But, like...
I went, what the fuck?
I will say... people have pointed out before, it is scary that Teppei has experienced being a butcher, because he is really good with describing deaths, and I don't like that. Well, like, he, like, you know, speaking 9 arcs in and all that sort of shit, his writing with deaths is something else. He knows exactly how to describe these to get that shit in your head. Like, something to point out is he describes a lot of scenarios in the series as this very open sort of interpretation to a lot of stuff. He describes outfits and all this sort of shit as, yeah, here's how you can imagine the outfit to be. And, you know, it's like, it's the apple in the head sort of thing. The apple in his head is red, and that's about it. There's not necessarily a proper shape, form, all that to it, right? He kind of likes to keep it open so that it's like, any interpretation of it can be, you know, different, all this sort of shit. But his writing, when it comes to deaths, is really interesting. Because writing a death, right? I feel like you can interpret that in a lot of ways if you're not seeing it. You can imagine the scene around you and all this sort of stuff, but it can be completely different from the person next to you. But he describes them with such depth that, yeah, the apple in his head is red, but he's then putting this text in there, giving it to you. You take it, you read that, like the stuff about the eggs or whatever it may be, right? And you sit there, and now your head has an apple in it. Except it's not just red, it's fruity. It has, like the root at the top. There's no leaf to it because typically, you don't normally see that with apples, even though that's what you usually see with an image. It's nice, it's shiny, maybe it's just been washed, something like, it's there. And you're like, what the fuck? You're like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I kind of like... I see why you've been egging me on to read, because I've been enjoying the way he's describing stuff. I will say, obviously, reading it in comparison to watching it, it's like... It definitely takes longer to read, obviously, because there's so much to describe. Because at first, when I first watched the first, like, couple episodes or something, I was kind of like, man, this feels very fast-paced. But it's not that it's fast-paced, it was just... Reading it was so much slower because there was a lot to describe. There's nothing to describe. You see it in the anime. But, like, the way he describes it, the way he described it, I think there was only, like, one thing I kind of went, oh, I saw that differently. And that was literally... There were a couple things. There was the Wilhelm scene, where he was outside with Subaru at night. I saw that completely differently.
I also saw that completely differently.
That did not look... I do not think they followed that one through entirely in the anime, because it sounded like they were on the grass. They were outside in, like, a backyard area.
Yeah, no.
That is what it sounded like in the light novel.
For some reason, even though my ass, like, knew that they were in, like, a, like, typical sort of, like, area like that, like, with, like, shogi that, slide open and all that. For some reason, my ass... When I first read that section, was like, oh, they're at the top of a staircase looking out a window or some shit.
Oh.
I don't know why I imagined that. It was just like top of a staircase of like a typical sort of like building, staring out a window, some shit, windows really high up.
Okay, and I need to explain mine then too.
Yeah, and I was like sitting there and like when I watched the anime, I was just like during my reaction, I think I was like, oh yeah, this scene's here, and I sat there and I went, why the fuck did I imagine it like that?
Yeah, okay, so for me it was actually completely different. I completely I've completely discarded the fact that they were at a Japanese inn.
Yeah.
Because the entire area isn't Japanese, it was just the inn. So, I pictured them outside in the backyard of the Japanese inn. So there's, like, proper buildings around them of that area. So, like, Venice-ish buildings, but like more, I guess, sophisticated ones. And then there's a water fountain for some reason, and they were both out standing on the grass. I mean, that's what I pictured.
Typically, that sort of thing would have a koi pond, but yeah.
But like what I pictured was like they were outside on the grass. They weren't like in the inn itself because they were standing in it with the door open when they were talking.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so different from what I saw. The only other thing I saw differently was, I think I misread one thing, because I thought Garfield went full beast form against Reinhardt when he went to punch him. I swear that's what I read, but maybe I was wrong. At the beginning of the volume, the first one, where they show up at the end, after the deal went south, where Garfield freaks out and attacks Reinhardt. I thought that, and I thought Reinhardt was, like, across the river, like on the other side. They were on the same side. That one's not that bad. It just, those are like the two times it's kind of like it hasn't matched, but it's still wild to me because I've read other books before, not too much, but I've read other books before, and I'm kind of like, I picture things completely differently than what they're describing. Why did I picture that so perfectly? Granted, I saw obviously the teaser, so I kind of knew what the area looked like, but not entirely. I kind of knew what the area, the city looked like, but not entirely, right? But with only that in my mind, why was that the only one that felt like it didn't look like that. Actually, no. The media, I didn't expect to look like that either. Kind of. Because it said it was an organ. But it looked a little different. Just a tiny bit different. But not that different.
It has, like, the pipes at the back, but yeah.
Yeah. It was just a teeny bit different. It was pretty close, though. It was still insanely close. And I'm like, how is he describing this so well? What the hell? Even the situations where they're all sitting and everything.
No, yeah.
I'm like, how are you describing this so well? Now, granted, I thought they were all standing and cooking. But, like, I didn't realize they were sitting. But that's also, I might have missed, like, a detail of they're all sitting down cooking. Like, I've missed details like that before. That's why I said with the Garfield thing, I was like, oh, well, I could have just misread that. Not realized. But it's kind of like the Wilhelm one is completely different.
There is an illustration
but
that
I'm
does
like,
make it
what?
there is an illustration that does make it look like they're standing.
How do you do this?
Which is sometimes just the inconsistency.
Okay. There wasn't it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Reinhardt did stand up and go, or Wilhelm did stand up and go over to Reinhardt.
I think
when I read it.
I think he does.
I don't remember about the anime, but it's still, even with that inconsistency, it's still like, if they were still standing, if they decided to keep them standing, then in the anime, then that's like the anime thing, not the him describing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, at that point, how the hell are you describing all this so well? Yeah. I'm just adding on to that. I'm like, how are you describing things so well? I love this.
Like I said,
teach me your ways.
There is an illustration in there that makes it look like they're standing, which is weird because I'm pretty sure it does describe them as sitting. I imagine them as sitting. But there is an illustration that makes it look like that, which sometimes that's the inconsistency of the artist, which I'm gonna be real. This artist is decently inconsistent sometimes. But I mean, fuck, a plot element got changed because they didn't realize who they were drawing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I was gonna really just mention. With all that, I do remember my reaction to Theatrical Malice.
I mean, that inconsistency is like is different than the fact that he's describing everything and you're kind of seeing it, and then you watch it and you're like, this is pretty much what he described. What the hell?
Yeah.
Why did I envision it the same? Yeah. What the hell? That's more so of like, what the hell? How are you doing this?
I do remember just to bring it back, my reaction to Theatrical Malice was, I was decently shocked, because even though I was a wiki warrior and I had already searched up a few things just for fun, like I was like, oh, let me know about the other cultists and all that. I didn't fully know that it was going to be like that, so actually reading that did feel shocking. Despite the fact that, like, you know, I knew how Sirius worked and everything, it was really damn interesting. How are we on time? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, let's
an hour 43.
I think we just go right to Garfield, right?
Yeah. So Gorgeous Tiger.
Yeah, let's just go there. Start.
Oh my god, I feel so bad for this man.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want him.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
All right. I remember reading this part. So this is one of the end of this section, like the end of the Gorgeous Tiger stuff, is legitimately one of the moments that made me tear up. Reading through the series. This part sucks, but in a good way. Like, it hurts. I always knew there was something fishy about Garfield's backstory, I will say. Right? Like, you know, it's not uncommon for, anime parent or whatever to die off screen or some shit. You know, they get off screen like that, whatever. But
they didn't actually show her body, nothing, when they're very good at showing that.
Yeah, like, they didn't show... They didn't
little sketchy.
This is, like, you know, I'm using the rule of a lot of games and stuff like that, and a lot of series I've seen of I'm not saying that character's dead till I see them on screen. It's like if you're telling me, you know, I'm watching some shit like JoJo. I mean, at this point, I've read a large majority of what could be shown on JoJo, but if there was a brand new fucking JoJo part getting animated at the same time as it's being written, I don't know, some shit, and you know, they say like, this character's dead, I'm gonna sit there and I'm like, I'm not gonna believe you until I see a body, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing of like, yeah, when I see one of the characters die on screen or something around the sort, I'm like, yeah, they're probably dead, right? There's an obvious like fake out one in there that's used as a good, like, oh, I assume they're dead because they showed me it, and then it's like, oh, they're not, which is like really damn good, but like, yeah. So I always knew there was something fishy because unlike every other character, we don't see shit. Like, if we were to go off of every other backstory in the series, like Rem and Ram, we see corpses, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's unidentifiable because like
every death of Subaru.
Yeah, well, like, okay, I mean, that's one thing, but like more so just like backstories and stuff like that. Like Rem and Ram's backstories. Yeah, you can't necessarily pinpoint any characters, so if Teppei felt like it, he could bring a character back for fun. But we see corpses. We see some like charred ass, like, yeah, these people were killed and then burned. I mean, I'm trying to think of like I don't think there was too much with Beatrice's, with like almost a few exceptions you could argue, not really exceptions because they don't really count as that sort of shit. Like Amelia, you see Fortuna die, and yeah, I know the obvious thing of like, but Sirius, yeah, but like, you know, at the very least Fortuna anyways we see die, and all this sort of shit. Every backstory so far, if somebody has died, they have pretty much said it outright. It has never necessarily been like a, oh yeah, by the way, this character's dead and you'll just have to believe us, right? At most, if they died before we even knew them, they describe a reason and we know that reason, so it's like, okay, cool. But random, oh, the cart fell over, boom, they're dead.
Landslide.
No body. Yeah, landslide. That's like, yeah, that's like a means that you could die from, but at the same time, that feels a little too cheap. So I was always suspicious of that, but I chose to believe it because I'm like, you know what, Garfield himself is just a tragic character in general, so I don't doubt the idea of that's it for his backstory, and yeah, then he smashes his head a bunch and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, yeah, like the loss of his mother creates this problem.
Yeah, the weird thing is part of what they show, because I watched it recently.
Yeah.
I watched it yesterday. Part of what they show is just piece of wood of the cartwheel on the floor, rocks.
Okay.
That's all they show.
In their defense, even though Teppei took a massive break at one point, in their defense, Arc 5 was written by this point.
Yeah.
So it is a thing of like...
Which makes sense. It's just... That's all they showed, and I'm kind of like... That's weird. I mean, okay, I guess she is dead. I guess she's just buried under that. But I'm like, where's the blood?
Yeah.
Like,
now,
hello?
Now, to be fair, I'm saying that, but at the same time, that's also how how many of us experienced it. So it was the obvious thing of seeing that scene. I'm like, that's fishy. I don't know. But I was like, okay, I'll believe it. You know what? That Giorno image, that's bullshit. I'll believe it. Not a real quote from him, but we'll pretend it is. It's an image that people have used a lot, and yet it is not a real image. And I read the fucking early scans of Part 5. So I was like, okay, I'll believe that. And then, you know, I get to Arc 5 and all that sort of shit. And then they're talking about, like, this kid, like, this random kid they're focusing on. And I'm like, alright, Garfield's bringing him home, whatever. And then, oh, well, like, you know, we learned the kid's name thanks to his little sister, well, not little, his older sister who shows up. And immediately I'm like fishy here because I'm like, these are two blonde kids.
With green eyes.
Yeah, green eyes. One's older and taller than the...
Sorry.
One's older and taller than the other, and the older and taller one is the sister. And then there's the brother who's younger and all that.
Who's named Fred.
Yeah, who's named Fred. And I forgot the sister's name, but her name...
forget her name.
Her name literally has some part of Garfield's name in there. And I was just like, this is weird. I'm like, this is Teppei, what are you doing? And then, yeah, you know, they have the thing of they have his mom walk on screen, and we get that whole entire scene, like that up until the point that he cries and everything after, and it's like, fuck, like, oh my god, reading that was so absurdly painful. And the worst part is the whole time you're questioning what the fuck. Like, I need to explain this for people who might be anime only. Hey, fun fact for anybody who's anime only. That stuff that you saw with Garf in episode 1 does not happen in the novel at that point. It all happens together at once. Like, all of that stuff is literally in one section in volume 2. If we got it the original way, that shit would have been like episode 4. So it's crazy because the whole last time you're sitting there going, what the fuck happened to Mimi? Like on the one hand, you're devastated by what's happening to Garf, and on the other hand, you're like, okay, so at some point after this, Mimi also is gonna get screwed over. The fuck is happening to Garf?
Yeah.
Entire world against him. God, God looks down at him and goes, fuck that guy in particular. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, go ahead. Just like, I don't know what to say anymore.
Fuck. Like, I just feel horrible for him.
No, yeah.
The whole thing, like you were just saying, the whole thing with his mom fucking traumatized him. And even getting like even getting the questions from the new dad, who was like,
yeah,
trying to ask him if he knows anything about her, and then she comes over and Garf cannot handle it.
Yep.
He is struggling, and I'm like, this poor guy, I love him. Fuck, I love his character. He's my third favorite.
Mm-hmm. No,
and I'm like, fuck, he's in my top 10. And I'm like, fuck, man. And then the whole thing with Mimi too, like the way I fucking love her so much more now. Like I was saying earlier, Mimi and Ricardo just shot up. So did Anastasia and Julius. Like, he's amazing now.
If Julius is already shooting up, have fun later.
I just needed more. Like I said earlier, I just needed a bit more for these characters, and I got the bit I needed. And if they're gonna get more, which they definitely will, oh boy, I'm gonna have to rework a lot of shit for myself. But yeah, just that, and then the thing with Mimi, like, comforting him was so touching. And I think I would have teared up a little if I read it, because I didn't actually get to that point in reading it. I got to the point where he was questioning Garf.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and then the episode, yeah.
So, and then I got the episode after that. So, it was unfortunate I got around there. Or actually, I might have not... Oh, no, sorry. I'm wrong. I didn't even get there. Because, right, that was that arc... that was a volume 2 thing. Because I skipped all that. Because I watched the episode.
Yeah.
By that point. So that is unfortunate. I think I would have teared up. My bad on my mistake there. But still, it's like, I felt so awful for him. Like, damn, like, poor guy. Like, Jesus. And then, he was all raring to help his mom out, even though, she doesn't remember him.
That fucking scene, by the way, oh my god, they are a genius for how they drew that. If I remember correctly, it shows... There's like, so it shows one half of Garfield's face and then the other, right? It swaps between that shot. And I saw somebody point out, one of the shots, I think, has like just a couple in the back, like a man and a woman. And that's supposed to, like, somebody pointed out, that's most likely supposed to represent Subaru and Amelia. And then when they show the other shot, it's a family with, like, the parents and then 2 kids. And it's supposed to represent them. And it's a thing of, literally, that shot is trying to describe, his inner thoughts of, does he run back and help Subaru and all of them? Or does he go and help and try to find, like, her husband and all this sort of shit and their kids and all this, right? Fucking genius of them doing that. I don't know if it was necessarily confirmed, but like I saw people mentioning it, and if that is the case, absolutely phenomenal that they did that for the anime. I fucking love that. That is really like that's a really good way of just putting his character in there. I also want to note, I do really love Mimi during this section, both like comforting Garf, and also
just being a fun bundle of joy.
Well, I was also gonna say like also, when they encounter the cultists and Mimi's like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Like she's like, hey, let's not fight them. This is a bad idea. Let's go. Right? We'll get back up if we need to. Just not.
She's like,
right
we can't
now.
do it.
Yeah,
you and me can't do it.
Yeah, and it's like this is a fun thing with her character because if we're being real, right, we know Mimi out of her small amount of scenes in Arc 3. Arc 3, this is a childlike character who shows up, eats a burger, walks away, points her wand at Subaru, then walks away, and then does some stuff later regarding the white whale. But she's very energetic, and that's all we see it as. These two scenes are really good at showing, yeah, she's very energetic and loves to praise Garf in this way, but arguably, she is the mature one out of the two of them. Like, when they are in a more calm sort of zone, like when they are in a zone where it necessarily isn't something extreme or whatever it may be, you know, Garf could be Garf could be Garf could be viewed as the more mature one because she's being energetic and excited and all this and just saying a whole bunch of stuff. Literally copying his pose, which is copying Subaru's pose. Love that image. But when it comes to these scenarios where it's like it's an emotional moment for Garfield, which she is trying to deny himself of, or it's a fight they are about to get into that they cannot win, that Garfield is trying to deny the outcome of, that is the moment where she gets to shine as an actual, like, the mature one. Like, as a, no, you're stupid right now. I'm trying to help you out here. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, love it. Anyways, continue.
I don't know. There was the like.
Fair enough.
I
said
that's around like where it was gonna end. I mean, all that's really left is just like, yeah, their whole fight together was really cool.
Yeah.
Animated, like we talked about, it felt like it was a little cut short, but
a few attacks, they run away.
Yeah, but like when I was reading it, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. And then there's the whole thing with after that, he's kind of sulking, he's kind of down, and it's like he felt down on himself because he couldn't even touch Reinhardt because Reinhardt just stopped him with no effort.
Yeah, which I should add, in the web novel, that is a whole ass sparring session.
Yeah,
they got a whole ass fight and he gets his shit stomped.
With his mom, he's traumatized in a way.
Yeah.
Then he has like Elsa's like ghost voice talking to him because
which is also not a thing in the web novel, but I love that it's there because that is great.
Because he's like doubting himself, and then this shit happens to Mimi because it was his fault for deciding to do the fight.
Yeah.
He's like, we'll throw a few attacks and then run. We'll weaken them and then come back. That was his goal, and then he got Mimi basically killed. And it's just like, man, he kept going downhill. And then on top of that, after he's brought back up a little bit by like Ricardo, they go to fight, and then the water floods the Subaru away. The water flushes Subaru away. That's what I meant to say, not floods.
Also not a thing
and
in
then
the novel, which I was
he gets
surprised
down again. And then now it's like he's kind of in better spirits after everything that happened with, like, you know, speech and stuff. But that's volume 3
we'll
of
get
this
to
arc.
that.
We'll get to that in the next, like, in the next one when I'm done, which won't be that long. But like, damn, I'm just like, poor Garfield. He keeps like kind of getting picked back up by something, and then something brings him back down.
No, yeah.
I'm like, this poor guy.
I do want to mention before we probably just close off, because I assume that we've been going on for a while.
Yeah.
I do want to mention with the Elsa thing, I do really love the addition of the Elsa stuff, especially the fact that it happens after Reinhard, because like I saw some mentions of like the whole thing of like like technically what Elsa says there is true. He won by dumb luck. Like literally, if Marley was not about to die, Elsa wouldn't have like immediately wavered and been like, oh shit, right? Which I mean, in the end, didn't mean anything because Frederica saves Marley. But it's a thing of like, if that hadn't happened, sure, that fight might have gone differently. But it is also a thing to note of like I mentioned this with my reactions. Even though this is just a voice in his head, like 100%, this is just a voice in his head making fun of him. Part of that I feel really just kind of pinpoints that this is just a voice in his head, especially, is the fact that I don't think Elsa's gonna view that sort of thing as that, which is a good story detail, right? This is something I want to know as a good story detail. I don't think Elsa normally would view that as a like, oh yeah, you won by dumb luck sort of thing. She's an assassin, right? If she loses, she loses, right? Like, I don't know. Obviously, every character is sort of like going to be different, but it's a thing of like I feel like the mentality of an assassin is just you go to kill or be killed. Essentially, it is the essentially like actual law of nature being implemented into their work of just like either she's going into that fight killing Garfield, or she's getting killed, and she knows that going in. Even if it's like, oh yeah, Marley's about to die, gotta go save her, right? It's a thing of, that's on her. If she fucks up there, that's on her, right? It ain't Garfield like, oh yeah, you won by dumb luck. It's, I'm stupid, I immediately tried to run. So, it's kind of a thing like that does help show that, yeah, this is Garfield just making fun of himself via this voice, and obviously not like an actual ghost, because if it was an actual ghost of her, she'd be like, I mean, you won. I don't know. like that'd be the end of it. It's just like, yeah, you won. Good job. Hooray. But like I do like that whole thing's in there because it does add a lot more to his trauma and everything. Makes it a whole lot better. And I mean, just like think about arc 5 in total for Garfield. This is gonna be a very good arc for him. I'm sure you and many other anime only people, whoever it may be, are gonna really enjoy him. You too, dog. You too. Would you like to close us off? Would you like to close us off? Can we get a woof? Can we get a woof?
Woof.
Can we get a woof?
Puppy. Woof.
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 Woof. Roo. 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 The mic has to pick it up. Roo. Roo. Roo.
What?
Roo. Yeah, right here. Roo. 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 Okay, I think that picked it up.
I think that's good.
Alright. I hope you all enjoyed that minute.
And now she's under the... God damn it.
But yeah, I think that... Oh my god, she's like tipping over the mic.
Yes. I'm sure it's picking it up, actually. Puppy, go this way. Go this way.
Close that.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Alright. I think that wraps it up, though, for Volume 1 and 2. Because, I mean, really,
Yeah.
there's not much else to say.
Pretty much.
We'll, be back for Volume 3, and at least with Volume 3, we'll have more time to speak about certain things. I don't necessarily think we needed too much time to talk about a lot of this.
No.
I think, we've said what we wanted to say overall.
Honestly, in the next one, we might either talk about this, or we might talk about all that other stuff we were looking at.
Yeah, like...
Because it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk about some of it.
We'll see where we go from here. But, I mean, with that said, I guess that's it. So, I don't know. Have fun, friends? I guess that's the way to describe it. Yeah, take care, everybody. Have a great night, great day, whatever it may be. We'll be back.
Have a great something.
Yeah, have a great something. And we'll be back for more, either with this or our fucking 5-minute idea shit.
We swear it won't be 2 years.
We promise. Farewell.